I didn't have a real trainer. So when I was at UCSB, I would get a call and say, hey, there's a fight. I guess I was still already boxing because there's a fight in Vegas and it's a 10 rounder. 10 rounder meant $1,000. It's $100 a round. So I said, I'll take it.
Are you looking for a way to drive growth, sales, communication, and retention in your academy? Kovar Systems 6-month Program Director course is designed to help members of your team thrive in the important role of Program Director. With step-by-step training, we will cover a wide range of topics, including prospect follow-up, overcoming objection, and securing enrollments. Our program will teach your team members to effectively communicate the values and benefits of martial arts, which can be a game changer in securing more enrollments at your academy. Our next 6-month course starts on this date. So don't wait and visit our site, www.kovarsystems.com, to get your team enrolled in the upcoming course. Again, that's www.kovarsystems.com. Enroll now and get ready to see some real results in your business.
Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Satori Masters Podcast, the ultimate resource for ambitious, hardworking school owners that want to get their business and their life to the next level. My name is Dave Kovar. I'm a lifetime martial artist, business owner, speaker, and author. My goal is to empower listeners with the knowledge and the tools they need to break through barriers and really get their business and their life to the next level. Thanks for watching and enjoy. Welcome to Satori Lifestyle, Satori Masters Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kovar. I'm super excited about our guest today. We have Sifu Graciela Casillas. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, man, it's such an honor. So, I know we've known each other, I probably for a while, but a good solid, seems like the last 10 years, we bumped into each other a lot. Does that sound about right to you?
Yes, it does.
And of course, I knew you way before you knew me. I remember we're about the same age. So when we were both kids, I remember, man, seeing this really amazing looking martial artist, this beautiful young lady who was winning all these titles. And I was just really taken aback by you early on. So this was back when, like I said, we were both very young, right?
We started when we were 3. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So anyway, but I think anybody in the martial arts industry is familiar with you, but a quick background. You were the first person ever to be both a world champion boxer and world champion kickboxer. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was the first athlete. People always say, oh, you're the first woman. I was the first athlete. Maybe there may have been others after, but I was the first to simultaneously hold 2 titles.
And you notice I didn't say the first woman. Did you catch that?
You said the first person.
Yes. But I think it's such an impressive thing. So first off, let's just start out with your martial arts journey. What got you into martial arts in the first place?
I first started in martial arts, ironically, through the local church that I used to go and take classes from. And I used to go to church, and that's where I started taking classes. It was a Catholic church, and one of the priests had offered to bring an instructor to teach a youth group self-defense class. And that's where my journey began. It was in a Catholic church in the La Colonia, which is at that time not the best place to be, but it was the only place that offered mass in Spanish. So my parents liked to go.
Got it. Got it.
So I started Taekwondo. Was my first art that I ever trained in, and I loved it. I, immediately wanted to do that, and of course, my parents were super strict, so I couldn't go by myself. So 3 of my younger brothers went with me.
Wow.
Slowly and methodically dropped out. Said they didn't like doing knuckle push-ups on the concrete, and I was like, "Yes, I love this. I want to do more of this." And so that's where it began. And I unfortunately only lasted about a year. Otherwise, I probably would have stayed in Taekwondo because I loved the art and I loved the way I was learning. But I also realized that a lot of what I was already learning was not just Taekwondo, but Hwarangdo, because my instructor at the time, Juan Gonzalez, turn this off, had come from the local Hwarangdo school. And you know how politics are. He couldn't really call it that. So he went with Taekwondo. So I just immediately just realized this was something that I thought I was meant to do. I felt that I was a natural at it, and I was just really inspired by the movement. It was a little bit rough. We got kicked out of the church after a few months. I don't think the priest there really appreciated us chanting and going
Got it.
It really didn't go well with Catholicism, but the thought,
especially at the time, like at the time it was like very, there was so many people and just about any religion, and martial arts was something, that's cult like, that's going to take you away from you. I totally remember those days. Yeah.
right. And so, but we were, the youth group leader was a priest from Mexico who was a missionary of the Holy Spirit. So he was a little bit more, I would say, progressive. And he was the one that was excited about us learning. So after we got kicked out because supposedly we were leaving footprints on the walls, we ended up at a local park, and that's where the end of the class went for months. And in retrospect, I understand that wasn't the best place to be training, but we were out there at night and doing knuckle push-ups, wearing army fatigues because
Love it.
I don't know why. That's what he made
I,
us
you
wear.
know, I gotta stop and tell you, share a story back in the ninja craze, right? So this would have been like 1980-ish. So maybe 79. I'm like 19 or 20 years old. That's my excuse. I'm a kid. We used to meet like we'd be wearing fatigues, and we'd a bunch of my friends, we'd meet to agree to meet at this park at midnight, and we would, chase in. I remember one time, I'm wearing full fatigues and I've got 4 or 5 knives on me, and we're going to meet and we're going to work out. And I'm trying to, there's a security card that's coming around the corner. I'm in this park and I'm trying to outrun the lights of the security card, and I run into a pole, a chain link fence, and I knock myself out. And
Oh
I
my
and I
goodness.
wake up and I'm all sweaty, man. What's going on? And it's actually, I cut my head and my nose is bleeding. And so I drove myself to ER, and I didn't have a dome light in my car, so I couldn't take a look. So
Wait a minute, you
finally,
drove yourself. How old were you now?
yeah, I drove myself to the ER because I knew I probably needed stitches or something. And I walk in, and it never even occurs to me. I don't even really see my reflection until I get to the ER, and the reflection of the sliding glass doors, and I'm in camouflage fatigues, and I'm totally bloody. And anyway, they like rush me in, like, oh man, this guy looks, because I was completely covered with blood. What it was just one of the, it was 3 stitches. But
Forehead bleeds a lot.
I remember doing push-ups at night in fatigues, I guess is what I'm saying.
How amazing. Yeah, I think we were in Army fatigues because we didn't have access to uniforms. It was kind of a low income area, and that was the best that we could do. But so eventually it came down to two of us standing. Everybody else had dropped out. The training was pretty rigorous. It was full contact sparring. And because I started that way, I really didn't, you're young and dumb and ignorance is bliss, right? I didn't know the difference. I just assumed that's the way we trained. And so Mr. Gonzalez would invite other like Kempo black belts to come by one evening. They would spar with us, and I was a beginner, so I would get my butt kicked basically, every time they would come because they were skilled and we really didn't know what we were doing. But I had that taste of, I still like the sparring. I liked the full contact. We really didn't have equipment. I don't remember owning any equipment. I didn't really have anything. So after that class ended into a year, it was about a year or more. I finally convinced my parents to allow me to enroll in the local Huarangdo school, and I started training there. And I immediately was double promoted because I had some skills. Only a year worth of training, but I had some skills, and I stayed there for a long time. But what I missed was the sparring. Jubang Lee, Grandmaster Jubang Lee, used to drive from Whittier every Tuesday and every Friday and actually teach the class. And but we really didn't spar, and I kind of missed that. And my main instructor at the time was Bob Dugan, who ran the
Okay.
school. He would drive from Venice and basically open up the school every day, and this was in Oxnard. And so I found out that's how I got into the full contact karate because I was getting ready to test for a black belt. And now I was thinking, I really love this. This is going to be my life. I'm going to teach this. But wait a minute. I don't know if I can make any of this work because I don't spar anymore. So it was more of that I started seeking elsewhere because I thought I need to put this to a test. And
Got it.
that's when I found out that down the street, the Kempo school, Refugio and Jesus Flores of Kempo Karate.
Yes, of
They
course.
were,
I remember the
yeah,
Flores
you
brothers.
know the
Yes,
Flores brothers.
of
Well,
course.
they are probably the longest standing school in our city since I was in high school, and they're still going strong.
Wow.
Refugio, may he rest in peace, passed away, but
He was
Jesus,
your coach. He was your kickboxing coach, right?
we were all fighters, so we all kind of,
Okay.
I would say he was the primary that was kind of leading the pack at the time. And so I would sneak over there and train after I would finish with my Huarango training. And that's how I started getting into the fighting.
And so you started kickboxing first, and eventually, so you've done so much stuff. There's so much I want to unpack, but like then you eventually you met Guru Dan and trained with him and did Filipino weaponry, and you're a firearms instructor. You've done bodyguard work. You're also retired from the. You got your master's degree, and you were a counselor at the college level. I mean, you've done.
Masters.
What's that?
I have
Two
two.
masters. Oh, excuse me.
I just had to
Well,
throw that
no,
in.
it's good. You're rubbing that in because I have no masters, right? I'm the 7-year junior college dropout. That's my story. So you and I, it's kind of yin and yang there.
That's okay. One of my brothers, who was an educator, used to always say, the degree doesn't give you the education life does. It just gives you that union card so that you can walk.
100%. That's what my dad kept on saying. It still didn't work. I quit. Okay,
Well,
so anyway,
you've been very successful.
well, in some ways. So anyway, moving on. Now so you're kickboxing. That's what you did first, and you about what time did you like win your first world title in kickboxing?
Well, so now I'm living I'm at UCSB working on my bachelor's degree and driving to Oxnard every night, just about to train with the guys. And I was still getting my butt kicked. I mean, I was taking a lot of punishment. So I thought, because everybody was young, we really didn't have a seasoned trainer.
Okay.
It was the guys and it was me. So I would drive out after class, and one evening we did it all. We would hit the heavy bags, hit the mitt, do mitt work. We would spar. Then when you thought you were dying, he'd say, "Okay, let's all jump in the car. We're driving to the high school. We're going to run stairs." So we did everything on one night. We didn't really know how to train.
Right, right. So you
And
overtrained. That's the answer. If you don't know how to train, just overtrained,
you
right?
just exactly. So, and I was taking a lot of punishment, and I thought to myself, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to end up with brain damage. I need to learn how to really. I need defense. There was a lot I was missing. I was just a brute. I
Got
was
it.
strong for female. I was used to training with the guys. So that's when I started exploring. I was still at UCSB. There was a friend who just come out of Lompoc prison that my brother says, "We'll hook you up with him. He'll give you some boxing lessons." And
Okay.
he was the first person who introduced me to boxing. And I had some lessons up there. We had a broom closet that was converted into long, big enough to hang up a bag, and
Okay.
worked out there. But I realized then that I needed more professional training. So that's when I started coming to Los Angeles. I met Steve Fisher and Howard Jackson, and they would literally drive. Steve would drive to Oxnard to pick me up, which is about an hour drive, take me to train, and then bring me back home. So
I actually fought Steve Fisher one time.
did you? He is
Yes.
such a great person.
Yeah.
Yeah, a really good teacher too. Wow. Well, there's a lot of parallels, and the history. All the young people today probably don't know who we're talking about,
Yeah, right.
but those of us in our age group, we know there were so many great martial artists that are no longer with us. And both of those, Steve and Howard, were
Yes.
really helped me a lot, refine my skills. And so I started moving to Los Angeles, and eventually I met Hap Holloway, who at that time had all the women, and they were getting fights. I was having a hard time getting fights, so I kind of had to connect with him. So I joined his stable, and I told my mom, "Mom, I'm going to go train with this family because we're going to Thailand." And she finally was okay with me going, but it's also because I was staying with a brother that lived in Van Nuys. And
Okay. Okay.
so she allowed me to go. So I was training with Alvin Prouder, Dexter
I
Brooks. And
fought Alvin Prouder and Dexter Brooks both too. Yes. I
so we would, oh my goodness.
By the way, that was in point karate. All three of those matches, they were in point karate. Yes. Yeah,
Wow,
you're speaking.
that's
Yes.
still rough. And
It's rough stuff.
I never competed in point karate. I wasn't around it. I wasn't exposed to it.
My my chest still hurts from Alvin Prouder's reverse punch. We were in an open stance and he hit me from like 3 weeks away with this punch that yeah, it was a story for another time. Those are great times. Yeah.
So so I continued fighting and fighting and fighting. And then I just fast forward, I just felt like, okay, I'm killing myself training, losing this weight, making weight, and there's nothing happening. So that's when I met Lily Rodriguez, and
Okay.
I already knew who Benny Urquidez was, but I found out that Lily was the one that she was the only female at that time that I looked up to, and I thought, wow, she's really cool, and she's such a great fighter. And guess what? She's also boxing. So I thought, how's that work? Well, you just keep your feet on the ground
Right. Okay.
instead of kicking. So she was the one that inspired me to go into boxing. And at that point, I was now training at a boxing gym because I felt that to be a good kickboxer, I needed to develop my hands. And I couldn't just be a slugger. I wasn't.
And you're ahead of the curve because that back then, this is the early days of kickboxing. Nobody really understood that. You know what I'm saying? We were just karate guys, with boxing gloves on, right? There were so many nuances. And so you were way ahead of the curve to get that. Now we all understand that. But at the time,
77 through
yeah.
70. Yeah, that's when I started in the late 70s. And so I started, that's how I got into the boxing was because of Lily.
That's amazing. That's so cool. So in the process, you're going to college this whole time. And
I'm already, go ahead.
when did you meet Guru Dan, and when did you start that journey and your Filipino weaponry journey?
So I've now moved to Los Angeles. I have my bachelor's degree. I'm now working on a master's and
One of two, by the way, just to be clear.
one of two. This was in counseling. And I was fighting a lot. And meanwhile, I had made friends with Paul Maslach, who was at the time the editor, I think, of Inside Kung Fu.
Okay.
He was really trying to support me and help me. And he said, Graciela, you're taking a lot of punishment. So the other thing, just kind of backing up a little bit, it's that I didn't have a real trainer. So when I was at UCSB, I would get a call and say, hey, there's a fight. I guess I was still already boxing because there's a fight in Vegas and it's a 10 rounder. 10 rounder meant $1,000. It's $100 a round. So I said, I'll take it.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm embarrassed to say this, but I put my cigarette out because students all smoked. I briefly smoked. Never. Well, I was
But
a student.
we're talking the 70s, and nowadays people don't do it, but so many people, yeah, of course.
You want to be cool, you smoke, but I could never really smoke. I wasn't a good smoker. I'd take a couple puffs and put it out. Go run for a couple of days and make it to Vegas. And always hoped and always succeeded in maybe a 1 or 2 round knockout because if I had to go to the distance, I'd be in trouble because I didn't
Wow.
have stamina. So yeah.
And then somewhere there, when your career was winding down, is that when you started doing Filipino weaponry? Were you already doing that, or?
So what happened is my friend Paul Maslach said to me, "You're really taking a beating." I go, "I am. My nose was like here." I go, "What are you talking? This is like 2 surgeries just to straighten it back and make it look back to the way it was." Um, but I was always getting my nose busted in the gym because here I'm now training Olympic boxing gym with Jimmy Montoya, who has some top fighters in the world. Um, my last sparring partner was Hector Camacho, Senior.
Wow. Wow.
And my claim to fame is at the end of my career, I got to go to Miami, do a 3 round boxing exhibition with him.
That's so
Um,
cool.
I was taken to beating, and Paul says, "Hey, I know this teacher, this school that can really help you teach you footwork, lateral movement, and stuff because you take one, you take two to give one, and fortunately, you're stronger than them." So he took me over to Guru Dance School, and that's when I met him, and that was in 1980. So that's how I started. And it's kind of funny because everybody was into this whole JKD phase and stuff, but to me, I found it boring because so much of it at the time was similar to what I had been doing.
Okay.
The boxing, the
Right.
kickboxing, he didn't call it, whatever attack by combination, but it was very familiar to me. What I saw for the first time and really loved was the sticks. I saw, oh my God, the Filipino martial arts, and that's where I first started, training with Dan in the Skrima.
And then you eventually, I know you and I have spoken offline about this before. You'd come up to Stockton and train with Angel Caballas, right? He kind of took you
So
under his wing, right?
after years of training with Guru Dan, Guru Dan would expose us to different instructors. We would go through, at that time, he would go through phases. I'm not
Okay.
sure how he's doing it now, but it was like, when I first started, it was Jun Fan, Jeet Kune Do phase. And then we went through a Silat phase. And then we went through a Savat phase. So it's kind of like whatever he was excited about,
Right.
that's what
That's
his school was. And so, we just and he would bring different instructors. He would bring Leo Gahe. He brought Angel Caballas. He would bring different instructors. So when I met Angel Caballas, I really liked the system. I liked the fact that it fit my body type because I was smaller at the time and short. So I liked the more combative close
hmm
quarter fighting. It's a funny story, but all the guys, there was Jeffy Mott, and a lot of the guys at Guru Dance School they're just beautiful to watch. They were just so flowery and so ornamented, and they could just move so well. And remember, I was a fighter, so it was harder for me to, develop those floretes and to be real flowery and stuff. And now I'm writing for, Black Belt Magazine, and I'm in Kauai staying with Grandmaster Villaburo's family, and I'm interviewing him, and I went to him and I was like Grandmaster, how do I get better? It was one of those, how do
Right.
I do this? How can I get so much better with my stick? And he looked at me and he said, don't worry. He said, all my fights that I had, because he had all these fights to the death, and he said, most of my win with, he goes, left hook, left
Wow.
hook. And I looked at him, he says, forget about that. It's not important. And my takeaway from there was, okay, there's art, but then there's street. So what are you interested in?
Right, right.
The flowery stuff is fun. And I still practice that because I've obviously gotten better over the decades. But that's when I really started thinking about street and that's why Kabbalist, to me, the Serrata system was more direct, a lot more specificity. I really learned what accuracy meant through Grandmaster Kabbalist, because every movement you make has to be hitting a target.
Right.
Can't just, if you're doing a florete, which is 6 twirls, everyone should have made contact with the target, and that's something I had not learned earlier. It was just, we were learning movements and patterns, and so that's why I was fascinated with the Kabbalah system.
That's so cool, and of course that's my original Filipino style as well that I trained in. Well, and a couple other things. So along the way, besides having a career, in education at the college level, you've also done bodyguard work.
So in 1980, when I started Guru Dance School, there was just a few of us women in the dojo or school, whatever you wanted to call it. I mean, when I was with Guru Dan, when we started, we were on, and I don't know if you've ever been to school, but it was in Marina Del. It was in Culver City. It was just one room. He didn't have the school that he has today, and it was basically an office space, and we shared it with Hawkins Chung. So like 3 nights of the week, it was Daniel Santos Kali Academy, and the other 2 nights or 3, it was Hawkins Chung Wing Chun. And we never saw each other, but that was basically our space. We had some shields, a bucket with sticks in one corner, and that was our school. That was the
Right.
school. Um, and so and I'm going out on a limb saying this, but when I first started, it was like everybody was cool with me. The guys, oh, she's a world champion, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, that's cool. But I kind of feel that they didn't expect me to stay and they didn't expect me to become good at anything.
Interesting.
And once I started staying, when I stayed and I started really embracing the art, their attitudes towards me changed. So I was always being tested. So
Interesting.
in one particular day, we would line up with their kicking shields like this, and we would, and you're stationary, right? So they're doing side kicks. It's not like you have, I mean, it doesn't take a lot to throw you back, but we would bow and rotate, and one guy, I will not mention his name, bowed and just kicked me so hard, sent me flying against the wall. And I sucked it up. I wasn't going to cry in front of him. I was going to wait till I got home to cry and lick my wounds, but I wanted to because it hurt so bad. So we bowed and I sucked it up and we rotated. And Cliff Stewart was lined up with the same person and looked at him and said, "Now you're with someone your own size."
Ah.
Kicked him and sent him flying across the room. He says,
Uh,
"That's what you get for
yeah.
picking on this little
No.
lady."
Yeah.
Well, Cliff, we began a friendship there that lasted until, unfortunately he passed away a couple of years ago. And he was always my guardian angel. And
Wow. That's so cool.
we became best of friends. And so he became my training partner, Cliff Stewart and Larry Hartzell at the time. It was the 3 of us always hanging out and training. And so that's my story with Guru Dan. And basically. I stayed there for about 8 years, and then
Wow, that's
I became
crazy. And
more involved with the Kabbalah system, and then was doing my own thing.
martial arts royalty there. And then, so you also, I want to be respectful of your time. I bet maybe I'm going to have you on another time if you don't mind. I'd like to continue this conversation. But in the process, you teach firearms now as well. When did that?
Oh
How
yeah,
did that
and what I
evolve?
started saying about Cliff Stewart was that he had his own executive protection company.
Okay,
Like a
that
lot
was
of
where
us,
you.
we had to make a living, right? So we're like taking any jobs we can. I'm teaching full time. I'm not using my degrees. My degree was more just to keep my family off my back. It's
I
not like
get
I
it.
thought I
Yep.
had any intention to really use it. He hired me, and I started working through him, working abroad and doing executive protection. And Cliff Stewart was the one that always encouraged me. As early as the 80s, he would say, I'm going to train with Masada Yub. You need to do this course. And I go, okay, okay. And I'm going to train over here with Bruce Siddle. You need to do this course. Okay, whatever he said.
Got it.
And he was always telling me, Graciela, the art is beautiful, but you need to focus on street.
Okay.
And that's where it's at. You need to offer to the world something more street, more combative. And that's how I got into doing executive protection. And I went through the first the Executive Protection International (ESI) course, and now I'm actually on their staff. Like 42 years later, I went back and I'm on their firearms staff.
That's amazing. And currently you're still like you're still super active. You retired from your 9 to 5, so to speak, and now you're spending your time. It seems like you're doing seminars all the time.
I try to stay busy. Since I don't have a school, I'm taking advantage of being able to teach at other places. I'm also teaching a lot out of team karate centers, and of course,
Of course, most amazing guy ever.
wonderful
Yes.
he is, and he's been generous and allows me the space to be able to teach there. But I just the bottom line is it's about teaching. If you love teaching, and I've always loved teaching, I'm going to continue to do that. Having said that, I also understand, and I'm aware that we have limitations. So the firearms is something that when I'm 70, maybe even older, I could still teach. I don't know that I would be teaching.
70 doesn't sound too old anymore. It used to
It's
sound
not,
really old to
actually, it's
me.
not. But we're so much younger than that.
Yeah,
But I'm saying
decades,
70,
decades
yeah,
younger than that.
exactly.
Decades.
So I'm thinking, when you're much older, it's a skill.
I got you.
It's not a cardio. It's not that I have to throw somebody, over my shoulder or anything like that.
I've got a feeling when you're 70, you'll still be able to do that as well. So, hey, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what would do? Like they wanted a seminar or more information about what you do?
Just type in my name, GracielaCasillas.com. I have an event page on there, and my information is on there.
So cool. Well, I hopefully I can get you on again another time. I there's so much more to talk about, and I know time goes by really quick. You're such an inspiration to so many people, and it's been just a really honor to get to know you in the last several years, and versus just like seeing you on a picture on the magazine. And I look forward to continuing our friendship.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for being on. And I already know that we're going to get comments about, hey, when can we have her back on again? So hopefully we can arrange for that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Bye.
Are you a martial arts instructor looking to improve your teaching skills and build a strong team of future instructors? Well, look no further than the Satori Alliance, an international association of martial arts instructors. Our mission is to positively impact the global martial arts community by establishing a shared level of martial arts instruction, professionalism, and continuous learning. With our instructor certification program, you'll gain the confidence, communication skills, and classroom management techniques to run a professional and well-run martial arts floor of any age group. We invite you to schedule a free consultation with one of our program directors who can evaluate your instructor team's size, schedule, and training content. We'll outline the Satori Alliance master steps that have helped build and maintain strong teams of instructors. To learn more about the Satori Alliance and schedule your free consultation, please visit our website at www.thesatorialliance.com/podcast. That's SATORIALLIANCE.com/podcast. Join our community of passionate martial arts instructors today.
Thank you for tuning in today to our podcast. I hope you found it valuable and inspirational. To stay connected, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you go for your podcasts. If you enjoyed today's show, please give us a 5-star review. And we really sincerely would appreciate some feedback. Your feedback helps us to create high-quality content that will help others in the future. If you'd like to follow me, you can go to Dave Kovar on Facebook or Haunchie Dave Kovar on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on next episode.